One Star Cowboys podcast coming to you Sunday night. Well, earlier today, Cowboys, Panthers, and Carolina, and the Panthers win 30-27. I'm going to reference our own Kent Garrison, who texted to me a pretty good thought on this game. Without Dak Prescott, this game would have been a 45-6 blowout. And I don't know that it would have been that bad, Saad, but he's got a really good point. Dak's got to play perfect, otherwise this defense is not going to help you much.
No, and there's no good part to this defense, and to some level, I'm kind of glad that the defense got exposed in the way that it did today, because I really got tired of hearing in press conferences that the run defense is the saving grace. It's all the pass rush in the secondary, but the run defense is the bright spot. No, it's not. And it hasn't been. The only thing is that the pass defense just has been so bad that teams haven't felt the need to run, or they haven't been patient enough to stick with the run consistently, because otherwise the Cowboys, you could run on the Cowboys all season long. This was not some kind of revelation. Rico Dowdle, did what he said he would do. And then also he's done what a lot of other running backs have done, just in shorter spurts. And because, a lot of the other guys that, like Russell Wilson was a deep ball thrower, Jordan Love can throw the ball. Like you've played quarterbacks who can throw, and Bryce Young, frankly, is not in that category. And the fact that the Carolina Panthers didn't need him to be, it just really exposed the Cowboys defense for what it is. And to be honest, there's no fix coming. And that, to me, is the scary part. This is not one DeMarvion Overshown away from healing the entire defense. At no level is anything that they can do this season going to fix what they have going on right now.
It's that whole thing of just kind of taking multiple grains of salt with everything that they tell us. Like from a organizational standpoint, there's failure all across the board on days like this. And I'm not going to be the guy that takes it back to Micah all the time, because there's a big part of me that does kind of agree with the Micah trade. Maybe not the timing of it and how it went down, but like the whole spin is how now we're going to stop the run. And even Jerry taking like side swipes last week, like you can take a player out of the game by running at it. And I'm like, well, that doesn't really have anything to do with what's going on. Like, how are you going to stop Rico Dowdle this week? And like for Rico Dowdle to get 30 carries and have 183 yards after he gave you a little bulletin board material, like, dude, the way to beat the Panthers is pretty clear. Like you got to make Bryce Young beat you a little bit. And they made Bryce Young look really good at times. But like, to me also, like if you're going to play this way and be serious about winning, and you can also get like a little optimism after the Giants beat the Eagles on Thursday night. So you're kind of like, okay, look at us now. We kind of played at the Eagles. Man, there's something about 6 minutes left, tie game, 27-27. You didn't do the job. But the number one thing that cannot happen is you don't touch the ball again. So defensively, do some things that guarantees that you get the ball back. It's like when the playoff game where they tried to spike it, with 1 second left. Well, the number one thing that can't happen is you get 0 shots at the end zone. And then it's just that has to be a known thing. And that is a big problem that's coaching and personnel, whatever. Everyone's going to talk about the 4th and 3 play. That's fine. It's the minutes leading up to that as well, where they're running and getting exactly what they want, and then promising that Dak can't touch the football again. That's a loss that is on coaching. So yeah, there's a lot there, man.
It's all over. And I do think that that 4th and 3 is worthy of, zeroing in on for a second, just because it is so fundamentally disturbing the way that they played that, to have a soft cushion the way that they did. And to me, it was almost symbolic in a way, because it was your best corner who was in coverage on that play. That was Deron Bland. That's the guy who you gave this big extension to. He's playing 8 yards off on a 4th and 3 or 4th and 4, whatever it was. And it's just pitch and catch for Bryce Young. So there's that. There's the other thing that, I covered hockey for a few years, and there's a common saying that coaches always say, that it doesn't, it does matter, but at the end of the day, specifically with the goalie, you want to get that one stop. Like you've let in 4 goals, it's fine. But at the end of the game, you get that one stop and you're the hero. It doesn't matter because you let the team come back and whatever, score 5 goals and win. And to me, that last drive was exactly that. You have been bleeding all game long and you can't stop anything. But right now, it's a tie game. It's 27-27. Just get one stop. And you know what? Even if you don't get one stop, leave some time on the clock. And just so you have the kicker that has the biggest leg in the league and you have an offense that can move the ball at will, just give them, 13 seconds. Give them something to work with, and the Cowboys couldn't even get the one stop that they needed. And I think that's where the frustration is. It's, the fact that, and I'll say this too, I said this on Twitter, and maybe it came across as a joke, but I'm being dead serious, that when ETN ran the ball at the end, in live time, I couldn't tell that they were trying to let him score. Obviously, on replay, you can tell they're clearly letting him go through and they want him to score. In live time, it looked just like the past 59 minutes. It didn't look that much different.
No, it really didn't, honestly. And the slow motion replay that we all see, like you said, you can tell like they're not doing it. You know what else you can do? You can push him into the end zone. Like they were just like trying not to touch him. I'm like, no, just push him in. Like, what pride is this? It reminds me of a time in high school baseball one time. And so sorry about my high school stories, but we were destroying a team by way too much. And it was before the 10-run rule had kicked in. And I'm standing on second base and my coach is telling me to get picked off. And I'm like, he's like yelling at me, lead off more. Like, and I'm like, no, I don't know. Like, that's not how you play. Like, I'm supposed to get out on purpose because you're taught not to do that, right? Like, you just know that. And he's like yelling, like, come on, get picked off. And I was like, guys, push him in the end zone. Like, you're not going to get the ball back. I mean, Carolina played it perfectly because of, that's just a frustrating way to go. That's a frustrating way to die right there. The 6 minutes, you being unable to stop them is one thing, but then not doing everything you can to get the ball back. Dude, suicide blitz, I do not care. Throw everyone at the line. You have to get the ball back. And they should have been thinking this with 4 minutes left. Not under the 2-minute warning. Like, you know where this is going. I'm not trying to be like unfair or anything. And it was a ballsy call on 4th and 3. Like, hey, we're going for it. Well, no, of course we're going for it on 4th and 3 because we're going to get it. Like, it just, there's things like that frustrate me. And it's not, that's not on Schottenheimer, dude. That's not like,
no.
I don't know.
That's exactly where I was going next, KT. I'm glad you brought up Schottenheimer, because coming into the season, I mean, say that we're sitting in mid-May right now, mid-May or June. If you're telling me from a coaching standpoint where you have more concern, it would obviously be the offense, because Dak is a little unproven. We didn't know he was going to be playing. He was going to eclipse 2023 level. I mean, that touchdown that he threw to George Pickens on a slant, we talk about those pre-snap checks and everything. I mean, just an absolute masterpiece. We didn't know necessarily that he was going to be this good, this healthy, and a little mobile and processing the game that he is, the way that he is. And then on top of that, you had Schottenheimer, who's trying to juggle play calling and head coaching for the first time together in his life. So the concern was clearly a little bit more on the offense, because on the defense, you have a guy in Eberflus who you're like, he's been here before. He's been in Dallas before. He knows how this organization runs. He knows he gets it. And he's been a successful defense coordinator and a head coach in the league. You had probably less coaching concern on the defensive side than you did on the offensive side. Obviously, I think talent-wise, players, I think we were more confident about offense all the way through with Dak, CD, and all that. But again, we didn't know Javonte Williams was going to be this effective, or that Jake Ferguson was going to be able to, elevate his game. So the fact that where we are now, I understand the calls for Eberflus. I understand it. But you don't have Al Harris sitting there right now. You don't. Who's the next guy? What are you doing at this point?
Yeah, it didn't feel like you have the players either that would even make that big of a difference. And so you'd be undercutting your defensive coordinator again, the defensive coordinator in waiting or whatever. You'd be undercutting him the same way you undercut Schottenheimer by letting the Micah thing drag out and ruining good vibe training camp, with that BS. Like,
Yeah.
Those are all things, again, that's where it's an organizational thing, failure from the top. So I think it's just hilarious that we were talking about answering questions about can we make the playoffs and all that stuff, earlier in the week. Let's not worry about that, right? Like, we know what this is. And this is, quite frankly, no disrespect to the Panthers, who are somewhat on the rise. I think they still have big quarterback questions there with Bryce Young, but they are getting talent, getting better. This was one of your gimmies, man. This is one of your layups, and I'm not saying you can't go in and beat Washington next week at home. And that one was a bad way to go. And just like when you could see it happening, when the offense couldn't get that score in the fourth quarter and we're 27-27, and you just kind of know where it's going, that's really maddening. And again, yeah. October 12th is always, I think, probably too early to be talking about firing a defensive coordinator. Thought some of Schottenheimer's comments after the game were a little telling. I thought some of the things he said were like saying things without saying them. I don't know. Did you pick up on any of that?
Yeah, I did. But real quick, I want to go back to your previous point for a second. I think we do this as kind of Cowboys media being in it because the Cowboys as a brand and as an organization, especially with the way Jerry sometimes talks and all this stuff, we hold them to this thing where to a higher level. I mean, why are we surprised? They are the Carolina Panthers. They are in that class. Like, yeah. The Carolina Panthers are the team that went and shut out the Atlanta Falcons 30-0. I mean, you can have good performances and bad performances. Maybe the Packers game was just one of those, one of like just a random good performance. The Cleveland Browns have a win this season. That happens for these mediocre teams. But we sometimes talk about the Cowboys like they're a better team and you lost to the Panthers. You kind of are the Panthers. You lost to the Bears by double digits pretty bad. And that Eagles loss in the moment felt really good. But the way the Eagles have been playing, that loss doesn't even look that great. It kind of feels like you lost to a middling team or at least ranked number 10 through 18 type of team. It wasn't the defending Super Bowl champs that you took down to the wire. It doesn't feel that way anymore at this point. To me, the Cowboys really are in this bunch of teams. Now, I don't think that the NFL this year has a lot of separation at the very top. I don't think there is a big collection of teams at the top, but the Cowboys are right there in the same class to me as the Panthers, as the Bears, as, these teams that
the Giants,
you probably, well, I mean, the Giants are a little bit different situation because of all the new blood they have, but I mean, they're kind of a basement 6 to 7 win team with a ceiling of 9 to 10. And I think even when they lost to the Bears, I know we on this podcast kind of took it a little far. We're talking about like, is there 3 or 4 wins on the schedule? With a healthy Dak, this is always a basement of a 6-win team. And I think they'll find a way to win a game or two that they weren't supposed to win, but they'll also have these kind of games here. I think I can't see a situation where they lose more than 6 games or win fewer than 6 games, but I can definitely see a situation where it is that bad if something doesn't change defensively here.
So we've given Russell Wilson, Caleb Williams, Rico Dowdle career games. And I'm sure I could go on if I wanted to, but like that it just doesn't get better. It's not one overshown away. If they want to even talk about trading picks and things like that, I think that would infuriate a large portion of the fan base too.
Yeah,
of trying to solve this now, as I think a lot of people after a loss like today makes you look ahead, and it shouldn't be that way. It should be we just won. Look at us go now, 3-2-1, coming back home. Who knows if the Commanders are good? The Commanders are going to be on a short week. The Giants beat the Eagles. This division is open for the taking. That's what it should be. And yeah, it's like you can big picture this thing and go, no, you can't think that way because this defense sucked anyways. The point is the game is played though, and there's a point you have to do things during the game to make that that, win-loss record change. And that's where I kind of that last 6 minutes is so maddening to me, because these are things that you have to just know and see early. You try to get your stop a couple times. Okay, now we're at 4 minutes. Okay, and it's just the last thing you can do. You have to throw everything at it here. And if you give up a touchdown, who cares? Your only chance is to win this thing in overtime. And I just don't think that they were thinking that way. I don't think they were thinking far enough ahead. And so I'm pretty butthurt about that loss. I'll be honest. I think it sucks.
Yeah, I think it's a bad loss, and I mean, that's not, again, like breaking any news, but I think I think overall, when you look at this Cowboys team, the offense is going to have to always outscore their problems. That's just the only way that they're going to be able to do anything. And in this game, they weren't able to do that, even though they got some really good play from George Pickens. They got some great play from Dak Prescott, obviously, Hunter Lipke. Yeah, I think overall, like, the offense was fine. But the fact that 27 points is just not good enough to win a game against the Carolina Panthers, that is just not. I mean, that's really bad, man.
And more of the same. I mean, look, like the number one takeaway is Rico Dowdle gets 30 carries, goes for 183 yards, 6 yards a carry. But let me just add on to that a little bit. Let's talk the big touchdown pass. Getting behind the defense happened twice. Once on the Rico and Ted McMillan.
Yeah.
So those things are still there too. The bend don't break thing, dude. If Ted McMillan doesn't drop a slant route in his chest, Donovan Wilson doesn't have an interception. You didn't get any stops. You didn't. It's just not good. That's ugly, and it's not gonna get better fast. Let me give you a hot take question though. Just for loosen up, because I know I'm giving off bad vibes here. Who would you rather have? George Pickens or Ted McMillan?
That's a good question. I think clearly it has to be Ted McMillan. And well, hear me out. You have Ted McMillan for 4 years on a rookie contract with a 5th-year option, or you have George Pickens for 1 year, and you don't know if you're able to re-sign him next year. I think in this situation, now, if you're asking me, if the question is for 1 year for this season, then I'm taking clearly George Pickens.
Not for life.
I'm going the other way. But if you're telling me that you have the mid-round pick that you gave up for George Pickens, and you have 4 years of Ted McMillan on a rookie year plus a 5th-year option, I'm taking that for sure. I mean, and that's not a slight to George Pickens. I think he's done phenomenal. It's just NFL salary cap. To me, that's just economics where, again, this year I'm taking George Pickens, but yeah, I mean, for the situation that they found themselves in terms of giving up a draft pick for George and potentially losing him for nothing next year, I think I'd rather have the McMillan situation.
I think it's an interesting contrast just because if the Panthers don't take Ted McMillan, there's a really high chance that that's the Cowboys pick there instead of Tyler Booker. And just looking at it, both of those guys had big days, and that's just kind of fun. I was trying to find something fun. Literally none of this should be spent bitching about the offense. It was a little weird that they couldn't get the run game going.
Wait, hold on. Yeah. That's what I was about to say. They ran for 31 yards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With, three starting offensive linemen out again? Can I lean on that? Because I can celebrate it when we win, but I should be able to bitch about it a little bit when we lose.
Yeah. Wait, real quick, KT, in your hypothetical, and then I want to hear Kent too. What are you taking? Are you taking Pickens or McMillan, given the full context of things?
Well, Ted, because now you're going to have to have a difficult situation figuring out what you're doing with George Pickens, which to me, I'm assuming I'm using all of my historical context that I have with Jerry Jones to say that they're going to franchise tag George Pickens.
Yeah.
And then we'll see if he shows up to camp or not. And we know that his agent is David Muffalata. So
yeah. And what you're really going to be where you really kind of, this hypothetical is interesting. I don't think Ted McMillan is doing anywhere near what George Pickens is doing right now in the absence of CD. I think the offense would be not in a great situation. But what I've seen from McMillan right now so far, and you already have CD locked up. If you're telling me I have those two guys for the next 4 years with the other guy on a rookie contract for 4 years, and then it kind of lines up right there with CD getting old and his current extension running out, and now you give Ted McMillan that same contract and he develops into your number one. That's kind of the way I'm seeing it. But Kent, what about you?
Yeah, I'd be very surprised if they let George Pickens go, knowing Jerry Jones and jersey sales, flash plays, all that kind of stuff. Seems like the kind of player he wants around here. And also, George Pickens and Dak have a great connection, which is something we haven't seen from free agent receivers all the time in Dallas. Brandon Cooks comes to mind. Randall Cobb comes to mind. They've taken swings on guys, and for whatever reason, it just doesn't work out. This reminds me a lot of Amari.
Yeah.
Where they just have, that second nature connection. And so I don't think you can take that for granted and just say, oh, we'll get somebody else in here.
No, for sure. I agree. That's why I think they're going to franchise Pickens for 1 year. And I don't know. I mean, it's just hard for me to see George Pickens signing a long-term contract here. I'm considering that a large percentage of that his agent's David Mulguletta, and I also think that like George Pickens will be able to get more on the open market than what the Cowboys are wanting to pay that position at that time. But there's salary cap room available now. So
we saw it with Micah. Just because the Cowboys want him doesn't mean it's what the player wants.
For sure. Can I would say, like, at the end of their careers, though, I do think Ted McMillan will be a better NFL player than George Pickens. Like when we look back at it, if we're all lucky enough to live that long, I think we'll go, oh yeah, look, there's their numbers side by side. I think Ted McMillan's numbers will be better than George Pickens, but that's just how I feel now. My other comparison, though, just for this day, do they have Rico Dowdle or Javonte Williams?
That, to me, that one is a toss-up. I mean, they're the same player to me. Honestly, I think it's the same contract, too. So that's the thing. That's why you don't really want to spend high money or high draft picks on running backs, because I do think Rico would be in the same vein as Javonte Williams this year so far. And I feel like Javonte would probably be the same thing in Carolina, too. So I think they're the same player.
Do we have... Like, what is the official? If it's happened, I just have forgotten. That's fine. What is the official closure? What happened? Why did the Cowboys not retain Rico Dowdle? Why did he leave and go to the Panthers for nothing? Was he the one playing hardball? Was it the Cowboys playing hardball? Do we know the answers to all of that?
My understanding, and we might want to revisit this with John. He might have a different perspective or different information. But my understanding was that Rico went out to shop, and the Cowboys just didn't think highly enough about him to wait. It's not that they didn't want him back. They did want Rico Dowdle back, but it was more of like, let's get this done, and if not, then you're going to go shop, and we're going to wait for you, and now we're going to lose on Javonte Williams or Miles Sanders or whoever, and then you're going to decide to go somewhere else, and now we're left with nothing. So I think it was just the time that Rico Dowdle took to explore free agency. My understanding is that is what led to Rico leaving town and them just signing Javonte Williams at that point.
Yeah, and I don't think Rico Dowdle's Walter Payton or anything, but like the Cowboys clearly let you know how they felt about Rico Dowdle before he got to start last year.
Yeah,
like that was all crazy, and we were all calling for it. We're on why? Why is he not getting more touches? And then finally, they decide to do it, and they start moving the ball a little bit. And I know Dak was out, and there's a lot of variables to last year's season that you can throw in there. But like, they told you how they felt about Rico before, like when he was on the roster and wasn't your starting running back.
Yeah, and just to be fair in this situation as well, it's an easier conversation to have when Rico's coming off of back-to-back 200 scrimmage yard games.
Yeah,
but the big concern for the Cowboys with Rico was always durability, and he had been hurt in his years in Dallas. Like, people forget he's been in Dallas for years before last year, but has dealt with a lot of injuries as well. So obviously wishing him like full health and nothing but the best in Carolina, but that is something to keep an eye on in Carolina. Is that the case? Is he able to stay durable, and is he able to maintain the level of play as he does that? But if he is, I think it's a great signing, great investment. But those are question marks that were legitimate for the Cowboys as well.
And it goes back to the whole thing. The reason that he had Rico Dowdle had 500 total yards the last 2 weeks is because he played the Dolphins and then he played the Cowboys. Like, you're just going to put good numbers up against the Cowboys defense. And, how much of that goes on the players and on Eberflus or the defensive coaching staff, that's all to be determined. But man, that was pathetic. And so you guys have any closing thoughts? And then we'll send it out to Carolina to hear from Jon.
Got a few Kent random observations, KT.
Yes, hit me.
What y'all's thoughts on? I don't know. We've been talking a lot about the absence of Micah, what Micah meant to this defense. Would they be better with him, without him? How important was DeMarcus Lawrence to this defense? I mean, just from a leadership standpoint, run stopper, great run stopper, can get you some sacks. I just feel like that has been a storyline that hasn't been addressed at all, is just letting him walk. Also, thought the Carolina black helmets were awesome. One of the better looks I've seen from the Carolina Panthers today, uniform-wise. And what's your thoughts on who misses being a Cowboy more, Rico Dowdle or Micah Parsons?
Well, just on that first one, I think that's a great observation. I don't think Micah or DeMarcus Lawrence or even if both were still here, I don't think the defense is I don't think it's fixed or anything, but obviously I think it's better. If you told me you could have one of the two, I think on a reasonable deal, I would be fine with DeMarcus Lawrence. I mean, Micah Parsons is a guy that you have to give the big contract, again, if you're taking all that stuff into account. Now, I think Micah would help the defense more than Lawrence, and there's statistical evidence to this. I mean, there's all those stats that we saw when the trade happened about how the Cowboys defense was quite literally dead last without Micah on the field, and then, top 5 with him on the field. I think Micah's a better player, but if you're asking, if you're only going to give me one guy, sure, I'll take Lawrence in the short term, but the deal that he got in Seattle, I don't think the Cowboys were ever going to give him that deal. And it's a really messy situation, Kent, because I do believe from conversations I've had around the organization that part of the reason why DeMarcus Lawrence was not heavily pursued by the Cowboys was because they wanted to give this defense over to Micah Parsons. And so they just kind of badly managed the whole thing. It backfired badly because Micah and DeMarcus Lawrence were not seeing eye to eye for a while. This was kind of like not a best kept secret type situation in the building. Everyone kind of knew that and understood that. But the reason the Cowboys felt like they could move on and this could be Micah's defense now, and it ended up to where they have neither. I don't know. Like, it's a good question. You can't say two players of that caliber, DeMarcus and Micah, if you add them on. I think the defense is better. I don't think it's great though.
See, that's the thing though. I think this offense is so good right now. They have so much firepower at the receiver position. The running game can get going, and Dak is playing at such a high level that the defense just needs to be not dog crap, to give them an actual shot at the NFC. We've seen a lot of teams win Super Bowls with a great offense, not a great defense, or vice versa. Yeah. So if they could get back to competent, I think they'd be in a good spot.
I agree too. It's like I'm very uncomfortable speaking on any the leadership dynamics because I'm not in the locker room like Saad and Jon are. But there were definitely older heads and younger heads. I believe this to be true of it was pretty split and divided, and it was kind of, I'm not saying clear that they couldn't move forward with both of them, but I don't know. And also, it's not like he's setting the world on fire in Seattle. I think he's a very good player. I think he would help the run defense, right? He would help the run defense. We know that. Might have a sack or two. We'll see. But there's a lot of problems here. I do think Micah misses being a Cowboy more than Rico. His family was here, man, and Rico's family might have been here too. But Micah had a suite at the stadium. He had he was at the fair during his bye week with the Packers. Now, probably
the way Rico went and laid out whoever it was and got the unsportsmanlike. He's just playing call. Like with so much angst today. Gosh,
can I be like? I also think like the Cowboys got a few calls today that kind of like helped. Like dude, even I know roughing the passer. If you get close, they're going to call it. But even that one, I was kind of like, man, I don't know, man. It's not like a very clear hit to the head. And I get what they were saying. The helmet hit the chin. So, yeah, you call the flag. There was another play. Man, I wrote this down, but I can't find it in my notes right now. But there's another play where I thought the Cowboys got a little bit lucky, and they were able to extend a drive. Oh, J.C. Horn, the 3rd and 11. Boy, I certainly thought that it was the pass interference. It was 3rd and 11. And I kind of thought, was it Ferguson in the middle? I think it was Ferguson kind of pushed off him. And they called PI on J.C. Horn, and he was looking around, what the hell? And that just kept the Cowboys drive going. You know, I think there's a big sequence in this game before we go to go out and hear from John. But also, the Cowboys had that ball, and I want to say this was early fourth quarter. And it was 3rd and 5, and they hit Pickens over the middle, big 45-yard play. So then inside the 20. Right now, Carolina was leading 27-24. And then Dak hits Ferguson for a first down. Then Dak fumbled the snap. And then he recovered it and saved the drive. 2nd goal from the 9, incomplete. 3rd and goal from the 9. As the Panthers put pressure, they had to settle for a field goal to make it 27-27. There was 9:20 left in the game at that time. And, you know, he kind of had no way of knowing, but if you score there, you're up 31-27. They had to settle for the field goal, and then, you only get the ball back one more time, and they were unable to score on that possession. That fumbled snap is just kind of a wasted play there at the end. And here I go again, spending time complaining on something about the offense. We should not do that. The defense is a problem, and that's why we are where we are.
Yeah, the fumbled snap is interesting, though, because I agree it's a wasted play, but also it was a hell of an effort. It definitely in real time looked like the Panthers recovered that ball. One of the Panthers' defensive linemen fell on it, but the fact that Dak got back under it, I think, spared them 3 points. But yeah, I mean, that is a wasted play, and it's bad. But I don't know, man. Like, I think this offense has to score 35 minimum. On a game-to-game basis to really have a chance. And it's not impossible. Remember, they're doing all this without CeeDee Lamb right now, and he might be back in the next week or two. But I just think that it's unfair to ask them to do that. And I think when I look at the job that Dak is doing, I hate to take it back to those Romo years, and you feel like, the 51-48 Broncos game or something like that, where you're just like, are you wasting this guy's prime, or when he's finally feeling it and clicking? I think Dak's window is still very wide open in terms of the next 2-3 years. I don't think this is the end, but this is one of those opportunities, and the Cowboys are botching it.
And I also like to say I agree 100%. There's a whole crowd that wants to fire Eberflus right now, and I get it. It's October 12th. So, I always try to, be very rational about it. And Eberflus's track record, blah, blah, blah. It is a little infuriating to me that you'll bring Robert Saleh in for a Rooney Rule interview, but you won't consider him for defensive coordinator, which is a job that I actually think he would have accepted. Because at the time he was taking on an interview as a Rooney Rule to fill out the Rooney Rule for the Cowboys, he had not accepted the job as the 49ers defensive coordinator. And not that they're world beaters, but that feels more fresh than doing something that who knows? It could have been bad too. So with this personnel, it could have been bad. Yee. All right. That's enough. That's enough of us. We've done enough here. Follow Saad over at The Athletic, covering all things NFL. Ton of stuff going on. And then Kent as well on the Mad About Movies podcast. Also, if you would give at Haymaker Network a follow, Twitter, Instagram, blah, blah, blah. The next couple weeks, we'll be going full video soon. Been telling you that for a while, but just trust me, soon. At studio the other day, checking it out, getting ready to go there. But you know him, you love him. Let's hear from Father Jon Machota out there. I'm going to assume hanging out with Sir Purr on the 50-yard line at the stadium. A late night at the stadium in Carolina. Here's Jon Machota.
Leaving Bank of America Stadium, I have similar feelings as I did after the Bears game in Chicago. And not to say that these two games are the same or the way that the Cowboys played was the same. But the reason I felt that way is because of how bad the Cowboys defense looked the week before against the Giants. I just felt like there was no way that they would be giving up those big of plays in the passing game again the following week, that they would work on that in practice, and that there's no way that the secondary would give up all those big plays. And lo and behold, against the Bears, more big plays in the passing game. Secondary, leaving guys running wherever they want. Made Caleb Williams look like, NFC Player of the Week, which he was. This game, I went into it thinking Rico Dowdle, coming off a monster game the week before. I'm not saying I guarantee a Cowboys victory, but there's no way they're going to let Rico Dowdle, after all the buckle up comments and him coming off of a big game, regardless of what happened, there's no way that they're going to let Rico Dowdle go for damn near another 200 yards. And lo and behold, first play, the Panthers had the ball, 9 yards for Rico Dowdle, and I started thinking to myself, yeah, it's possible. It's possible. But I thought, hey, maybe there'd be some adjustments, figure this thing out. No, nothing like that at all. 6 games in, I don't know where, unless you're just the most positive, most optimistic fan there has ever walked this earth. But I don't know how you can be optimistic about this Cowboys defense. There was a point in this season within the first few weeks where you felt like, you know what, with these defensive tackles, the best defensive tackles they've had in over a decade, since Jay Ratliff was on the team, you're like, you know what, this defense will be good. The run defense will be solid. And now that's not even good. So I wrote in my story for The Athletic for tomorrow about how, people say all the time about how, like, football, game of inches, a play here, play there. And it made me laugh thinking of that when I watch this defense sometimes, because it's not a game of inches. I felt like there was so many plays where Rico Dowdle, yeah, he might have got 9 yards on it, but it was a play where he wasn't going to get any less than 4 or 5 because there's just so much green grass around him. And it's the same with some of the plays in the passing game, the touchdowns, the Tetaroa, McMillan, where it's just like, it's not even close. It's not even a spot where you're just like, hey, that guy just made a phenomenal catch or this great. No, it's some pretty basic stuff, and guys are running around wide open, just running up and down the field. 15 plays to get in position to kick that game-winning field goal. And let's be honest, if they needed a touchdown to win the game, they would have gotten that. That defense was not stopping them. And I get it. There's people that will listen to this or read something that I write or whatever, and they'll say, well, what did the offense do? Their last possession, they had a 3-and-out, and they lost 8 yards on back-to-back plays, and they didn't do anything. I get it. The offense wasn't great. Run game as bad as I've seen it. Inexcusable. Run game should never be that bad. But that's so chapter 7, 8 of this book. And chapter 1 through 5 is all about the defense. And I think the biggest takeaway for me is if you look like that against Carolina, I don't know how you think that all of a sudden that they're just going to start rolling against good teams. There might be a game here or there, heck, maybe next week against Washington, that they surprise us and they play on a level where you're like, you know what, that's better than I thought they'd be, and maybe they hang in there, maybe they even win that game. But the idea of what you need to win to be a playoff team or feel like you've taken a step from last season, I'm starting to have my doubts about that. They won 7 games last year. I think that that's about where this team's headed, and it might not even get to 7 wins, to be honest with you. This schedule gets a lot tougher as it goes on. This early part is the part where they needed to stack some wins to put themselves in position late to pull off some games that maybe you don't think that they can win. And now it's like they have to win a bunch of those just to have a chance. A bunch of those games late against the Chargers and Washington and Detroit and Kansas City and Philadelphia and Minnesota. Like, I mean, I was going into that stretch thinking, well, they might be able to win 1 or 2. Now they got to win like 3 or 4 of those to have a shot. And I just don't really see that happening. So maybe I'm just being too pessimistic, but I don't know how you can be optimistic after watching what the Cowboys did here in Charlotte on Sunday. That's just that's a head scratcher. There are positives, you know. George Pickens made himself a lot of money, continues to make himself a lot of money. When CeeDee Lamb gets back, I mean, their passing attack is going to be nasty. And if they can keep George Pickens around beyond this year, and I can see a path where they spend their first round picks on some defense, maybe do something in free agency. They do something to improve the defense next offseason, and I can see a positive path a year from now. But right now, for the rest of this season, I don't see that path at all. And I know a lot of people watching the game, people that tweeted at me said things like, you know, they got to fire Matt Eberflus, and I get that. I mean, with the frustration that fans have right now, I completely understand it. But I just have to say, I don't see that happening. I don't see somebody on the staff that they would hand it off to. And I don't get the feeling that the front office or the coaching staff feels like this is all on Matt Eberflus. He obviously is a part of it, but I don't get the sense that they feel like that if they just move in a different direction and have someone else call the defense, that it's going to be fixed. And so that's why I don't really see a lot of optimism for the rest of this season. It leaves me scratching my head a little bit about the linebacker position. I think I've said this before in our podcast. I just, that's the spot where you knew DeMarvion Overshown was going to be out for at least half the season, which is going to be the case. You knew that you were going to have to get some different linebackers to fit what Matt Eberflus wanted to do. And you had a draft, you had an offseason, you had free agency, and these are the linebackers you wanted. That's Matt Eberflus's position. And I can't think of a position on this team that's worse than their linebackers. So that's alarming. I don't know how that just gets fixed right away. I think DeMarvion Overshown coming back will help, but that's probably not till after the bye. That's a ways away still. So not a lot of positives here. Not a lot of positives. Maybe my tone will change with a strong performance from them next week against Washington. But I leave the stadium thinking, if you had any chance of making the playoffs, beating the Panthers, that had to happen. This was a must win if you thought you're a playoff team. And so maybe they'll shock me, but I have my doubts.
How about y'all fix this shit, Rich?